Hello and welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims, and these are the top diabetes stories and headlines of the past 7 days. In the News is brought to you by the T2D Exchange. Help drive research that matters. Our top story this week, Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Pharmacy moves ahead with investigating insulin. In December, they sent out a survey asking people who used insulin to share their thoughts. Now they've followed up with some who took that survey, receiving emails that read, quote, "Through the test program, eligible patients can purchase up to a 90-day supply of insulin Lispro, up to 12 vials or 8 packs of Quick Pens for $170, including shipping. We cannot accept insurance for this test program," end quote. Lispro is Humalog, same exact insulin. Stay tuned. I emailed with Mark Cuban last month, and he told me he would come on the podcast when this got a little further along. Possible new player in the U.S. patch pump business, EOFlow, has submitted a 510K application to the FDA for its EO Patch wearable disposable insulin pump. The company is based in California and has launched the pump in South Korea. They also have FDA breakthrough device designation on a separate integrated artificial pancreas. The website says EO Pancreas is a wearable disposable artificial pancreas system that integrates a continuous glucose sensor and an insulin pump in one small wearable module and autonomously controls insulin infusion. They're looking for a U.S. partner for the pump and hope to launch in 2024. No timeline on the artificial pancreas, and frankly, not a lot more information than what I shared is available publicly. Your time in range before getting a COVID vaccine may predict your body's response. This was a small study, 25 patients with type 1 who received 2 doses of a COVID vaccine. Researchers followed the group 2 weeks before and 6 months after the shots. The primary outcome measures were pre-vaccination glucose control and antibody response after vaccination. Patients with more than 70% time in range developed stronger neutralizing antibodies regardless of their A1Cs. These researchers says that highlights a role for well-controlled blood glucose in vaccination efficacy. A new study in kids with type 1 seems to show that the drug golimumab, brand name Simponi, can help preserve beta cell function. This is the TIGER study, which includes people aged 6 to 21 with T2D. They're either given the drug or placebo for a year and then off the drug for another year. The group taking golimumab used less insulin and had a higher C-peptide level in the time after the medication stopped, indicating there was a positive difference. Another new study confirming what a lot of you already know, metformin failure in people with type 2 is very common, particularly among those with high A1Cs at diagnosis. Now, this was an analysis of electronic health record data for more than 22,000 patients. They started metformin at 3 U.S. clinical sites, and over 40% experienced metformin failure. That's defined as not achieving or maintaining an A1C less than 7% within 18 months or the use of additional glucose-lowering medications. The care sites where the data came from were pretty diverse. University of Mississippi Jackson centers, mostly African-American, Mountain Park Health Center in Arizona, which serves a mostly Latino population, and Rochester Epidemiology Project includes the Mayo Clinic and serves a primarily white population. The FDA has approved a label update for semaglutide that allows the drug to be used in addition to diet and exercise as a first-line option for adults with type 2. The brand name here is Wegovy. Semaglutide was approved in 2019, and it became the first and only GLP-1 in pill form. Merck says its diabetes drugs, Januvia and Janumet, have become contaminated with a potential carcinogen, but they say they'll resolve the problem by the end of the year. The company submitted a report to the FDA and other regulators. The impurity arose mostly during storage, but happened during manufacturing as well, according to Bloomberg News. The FDA said in August, certain samples of compound in Merck's diabetes drugs were contaminated. Researchers studying new methods for improving blood sugar control in type 2 have discovered an old class of antipsychotic drugs may offer clues to a new kind of treatment. The class of drugs known as DPBPs were developed back in the 60s. They are still used today. These researchers say they improve blood sugar control by preventing the muscle from burning ketones as a fuel source. Because these drugs are already approved medications, the researchers hope to quickly move to proof of principle human trials. This was published in the journal Diabetes. Another study showing an AID system works well for people with type 2. Scientists from University of Cambridge set up a small study. No surprise, the closed-loop system did a lot better than standard injection therapy. People stayed in target range 66% of the time versus 32% with shots. It was an additional 8 hours a day of time in range. Dexcom gives us a little more information about the G7. I interviewed Kevin Sayer for this week's long-format interview. He says the G7 will launch in the U.S. during this first quarter, so by the end of March. He also gave a more pessimistic view for interoperability with Tandem and Omnipod than I'd previously heard. He said Tandem likely end of summer, early fall, and Omnipod 5 next year. It is up to those companies, though, not Dexcom. In the News is brought to you by the T2D Exchange Registry. It is a research study conducted online designed to foster innovation and improve the lives of people with T1D. We all talk about diabetes a lot online if you're on social media, right? But when you post about it, even if you're answering surveys online, a lot of times that information goes nowhere. But with the T1D Exchange, they use what you tell them to advance meaningful T1D treatment, care, and policy. In December, their most popular questions were about hypoglycemia unawareness. Were you in DKA when you were diagnosed? Or how many times in the last year did you get a comprehensive eye exam? These are really easy questions, and once you answer them, they can use that information to support policy or insurance changes that help everybody in the T1D community. I really urge you to check this out if you haven't already. It's so easy to do, and your personal information remains confidential. So check it out. Just go to t1dexchange.org/Stacey. It's on the website. You'll see the logo there, but it's t1dexchange.org/STACEY. On the podcast next week, how are those New Year's resolutions going? Well, if you haven't kept them up, there's a reason for that. Nutritionist Ben Zeal, who lives with type 1, joins me to talk about how to get back on track, and the answer is probably going to surprise you. It's about doing a lot less. And I mentioned last week's episode with Dexcom CEO Kevin Sayer. We talk about the G7 launch and lots more, including their plans for the type 2 community and moving into health, whatever that means. You can find that episode right where you've listened to this one. And that is in the news for this week. If you like it, please share it. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you back here soon.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.